The Tuesday morning light was soft through my kitchen window. I wiped the counter for the third time. The coffee machine gurgled. Its sound was familiar. My wife Clara came downstairs. She was already dressed for her day. "Morning, Martin," she said. She kissed my cheek. It was quick. Her mind was elsewhere. I could tell. She opened the fridge. "Did you call the landscaper about the hedges?" "I left a message yesterday," I said. I poured her a mug. "They haven't called back." "Just call again," she said. She took the mug. "Don't let it slide. You know how you forget." I nodded. I did not argue. She was right sometimes. I was 68. Some things did slip my mind. It was normal. Clara was 59. She had a sharper memory. She managed more of our life now. It was easier for her. Our daughter Alara called after breakfast. Clara put her on speakerphone. Alara's voice filled the quiet kitchen. "Hi, Dad. Hi, Mom. Just checking in. Dad, did you take your blood pressure pill?" "I did," I said. "You're sure?" she asked. Her tone was light. It held a thread of something else. "Mom, maybe you should do his pill box for him on Sundays. It's just safer." Clara agreed. I listened. It was care. I told myself that. It was just their way of caring. They were busy. Alara ran a small design firm. My son-in-law, Leo, was a financial advisor. Clara volunteered at the museum. They all had full lives. I was retired. I had time to handle things, but they seemed to think I had too much time, or not the right kind of focus. It started small. Leo offered to look at our investments. "Just to optimize, Martin," he said. "The market's changed. Your guy at the bank is probably using old models." I liked our bank guy. His name was Tim. He was patient, but Leo was family. Clara thought it was a wonderful idea. "Let Leo help," she said. "It's one less thing for you to worry about." I signed the papers Leo brought over. They were authorization forms. They looked standard. Leo explained each one. He talked fast. He pointed to signature lines. "This just lets me talk to the brokerage on your behalf," he said. "No big deal. It's so I can get information and give you better advice." I trusted him. He was married to my daughter. He had a nice house. He drove a nice car. He knew about money. I signed. A month later, Clara suggested we update our wills. "Ours are so old," she said. "The executor is your old law partner. He's retired to Arizona. What if something happens?" It made sense. Leo recommended an attorney, a friend of his. We met him. His office was sleek. His name was Robert Vance. The new will was simple. Clara was the primary beneficiary. Alara was the secondary. Everything went to them. My old will had included a few bequests, a sum to the local library where I volunteered, a gift to my nephew. Clara said, "We can handle those gifts separately, Martin. It's cleaner this way. We'll make sure the library gets something." The document was long. The language was dense. Robert Vance summarized it. It sounded right. I signed. The house felt quieter after that. Not peaceful quiet, an empty quiet. Decisions began to bypass me. Clara and Alara would discuss a repair. They would choose a contractor. I would be told the date and time. "The guy is coming Tuesday at 10, Martin," Clara would say. "You'll be here to let him in, right?" My role was to be present, to open the door. Then came the vacation. Clara planned a 2-week trip to Maine, a rental cottage. She showed me pictures. "It'll be so good for you," she said. "The sea air, the quiet." I liked the idea. I packed my bag. The day before we left, Alara came over. She had a folder. "Dad," she said, "while you're away, there's some boring paperwork. The insurance policy on the house needs a renewal signature. Power of attorney stuff just in case. Medical things. It's a hassle, but if you sign now, Mom can handle anything urgent." She laid out the documents. A durable financial power of attorney, a healthcare proxy. They designated Clara as the primary agent, Alara as the successor. I read the first line of each. My eyes tired quickly. The print was small. "It's standard, Dad," Alara said. She smiled. It was her mother's smile, warm but firm. "Everyone our age does this for their parents. It's just planning for peace of mind." For my peace of mind, I asked. For everyone's, she said. She put a pen in my hand. I signed them. It felt like a formality, a chore to be done before a trip. I did not think much of it. We went in Maine. The cottage was lovely. Clara took long walks. I read on the porch. We spoke little. The silence between us had weight. I thought it was just years, the comfortable silence of a long marriage. We returned home to a changed landscape. Not outside, inside. My study had been tidied. Clara said the cleaning lady did it. My filing cabinet was organized. Old papers were gone. Just clutter, Martin, Clara said. You hadn't opened that drawer in years. My collection of first editions was dusted and rearranged. It felt sterile. A week later, my car wouldn't start. Clara said, "It's old, Martin. Let's just sell it. We can share my car. You don't drive much anyway." I drove to the grocery store. I drove to the library. I drove to see my friend Arthur. But I said okay. Leo handled the sale. He got a fair price. The money went into our joint account, the account Leo now monitored. My world was shrinking. I could feel its edges, but each reduction was wrapped in soft logic. It was for my safety, for simplicity, for our future. The first true betrayal was quiet. It happened on a Thursday. Arthur called. Arthur was my oldest friend. We practiced law together for 35 years. He was sharp. He was the one who retired to Arizona. He called every few weeks. "Martin," he said. His voice was different, hesitant. "I got a letter from a Robert Vance. He says he's your new attorney. He's requesting I formally renounce my role as executor, since I'm out of state. He said it was at your family's urging." I held the phone tightly. "I didn't know he'd do that," I said. "That's what I figured," Arthur said. He paused. "Martin, is everything all right there?" "Yes," I said, too quickly. "It's just easier with someone local, Clara's idea." "I see," Arthur said. His tone said he saw more than I was saying. "And the new will," he mentioned a new will. "We updated it, simplified things." "Did you read it?" Arthur asked, the lawyer in him, the friend in him. "I got the gist," I said. Arthur was quiet for a long moment. "Martin," he said finally, "you're not a gist guy. You read every line. You used to write every line." He sighed. "Listen, if you ever need an independent read, you call me, okay?" I thanked him. I hung up. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. I went to find Clara. She was in the living room. She was looking at fabric samples for new curtains. "Arthur got a letter from Vance," I said. My voice was calm. She didn't look up. "Oh, good. That needed to be handled. It's not fair to Arthur to have that responsibility from so far away." "You could have told me," I said. Now she looked up. Her expression was one of mild surprise. "Told you what? We discussed updating the will. This is part of that. I didn't think you'd want to be bothered with the administrative details." She reached out and patted my hand. "You've been so forgetful lately, sweetheart. I'm just trying to carry the load." That word, forgetful, it was becoming a key they used to lock doors in front of me. The second betrayal was colder. It was about my grandson. Ben Alara's boy, he was 12. He loved astronomy. For his birthday, I wanted to give him my old telescope. It was a serious piece of equipment. I bought it years ago. It was in the attic. I told Alara my plan. Her response was a closed smile. "That's so sweet, Dad, but Leo and I are getting him the new gaming console. It's what all his friends have. That telescope, it's a lot. It's complicated, and it's probably dusty, might trigger his allergies." "I'll clean it," I said. "Let's just leave it," she said. Her tone was final. "We've got his gift covered." I went to the attic anyway. The telescope was gone. The case, the tripod, the eyepieces, all gone. I went downstairs. My heart was beating a little fast. "Clara," I said, "the telescope, it's not in the attic." She was at the sink. She didn't turn around. "Oh, I donated that weeks ago, along with a lot of that old attic junk. The Historical Society had a sale. It was just gathering dust." I stood there. I felt the floor solid under my feet, but something inside me was tipping. "That was mine," I said. My voice was quiet. She turned. She dried her hands. She came to me. She put her hands on my shoulders. Her eyes were soft with concern. "Martin, you haven't touched that thing in a decade. You said you were going to clean out the attic for years. I finally did it." "Are you upset?" I was trying to help. The anger I felt was hot and sharp, but her concern disarmed it. It made my anger feel like a symptom, a sign of my unreliability. I saw the script. If I protested, I was being difficult. If I was emotional, I was unstable. If I remembered things differently, I was forgetful. I nodded slowly. "It's fine," I said. "You're right, it was just gathering dust." That night I lay awake. The silence in our bedroom was vast. I thought about the telescope. I thought about Arthur's call. I thought about the signed papers, the sold car, the cleaned-out filing cabinet. A pattern emerged in the dark. It was not a pattern of malice. It was a pattern of erosion. My autonomy was being eroded. My history was being edited. My connections were being severed, all under the gentle, inexorable banner of care. I did not confront them. Confrontation would be noise. It would be proof of my emotionality. It would give them a reason to escalate their care. I knew how this worked. I had seen it in my practice, not in family law, in estate disputes. The slow, quiet takeover. The next morning I began. I was calm. I was methodical. It was who I used to be. I drove Clara's car to the library. I used a public computer. I created a new email address. I used a variation of an old childhood nickname, nothing they would guess. I went to the county clerk's website. I requested copies of every document I had signed that was publicly recorded. The property deed, the old will. It took a few days. They arrived in the mail at a P.O. box I rented. The box was in the next town over. I read the new will carefully, word by word. It was as Vance had summarized, but the language was absolute. It included a no-contest clause. It stated I was of sound mind. It had been witnessed by 2 paralegals from Vance's office. The financial power of attorney was the most expansive form. It granted Clara the authority to manage, sell, or gift any asset, without my further consent. It was already in effect. I had signed it believing it was for emergencies. I went to my bank. I asked to see my safe deposit box. Clara had the key now. She said it was safer with her. I told the clerk I lost my key. I showed my ID. I went through the hassle. I paid for a new key. The box contained old bonds, some jewelry for my mother, the deed to a small plot of land in Vermont. My father had bought it as an investment. It was worthless, he'd said, just a patch of woods. I had forgotten about it. The deed was there, in my name only. It was not listed on any of our current asset sheets. I took the deed. I left the rest. I made a copy at the library. I put the copy back in the box. I kept the original. I started a journal, a simple composition notebook. I bought it with cash. I kept it in the trunk of Clara's car under the spare tire. I recorded facts, dates, conversations, not emotions, just facts. April 12, mentioned Arthur's call to see. She characterized it as administrative. April 15, telescope donated, not consulted. April 18, P.O. Box 221 established. April 22, bank confirms FPOA on file. Teller said, "Your wife is very organized." I began to notice their language. It was a lexicon of diminishment. "We just want you to relax, Dad. Let us handle the hard stuff. You've earned a rest. Don't trouble yourself. You'd forget your head if it wasn't attached." This last one was a new favorite of Clara's. She said it with a laugh. It was a joke, but it was. I saw Alara and Leo more often. They came for dinner every Sunday. The conversations were light, but sometimes they would exchange a look over my head. When I told a story they'd heard before, or when I couldn't recall a name, the look was not cruel. It was confirming. It said, "See." I played my part. I let a few more things slide. I asked Clara to repeat things sometimes. I pretended to be more absent-minded than I was. It was a strange performance. I was dimming my own light so they could see their narrative more clearly. They needed to believe I was fatting. It justified their actions. I gave them the evidence. In May, Leo suggested we restructure the house title. "It's for estate planning, Martin," he said. "A revocable trust. It avoids probate, saves Alara a world of headache later." He made it sound technical and dull, a chore. "What does it involve?" I asked. "Just signing some papers," Leo said. He smiled. "We'll have Vance draw them up. You and Clara will be the trustees. Then eventually, Alara, it's the responsible thing to do." I knew what it involved. It would move the house out of our direct ownership into a trust they controlled. It was a common step, the final step before outright transfer. "Let me think about it," I said. Clara looked surprised. Alara frowned. "Think about what, Dad?" Alara asked. "It's a no-brainer. It protects the asset." "I just want to understand it better," I said. My voice was mild. "Old lawyer habit." There was a silence. It was the first time I had not immediately agreed. The atmosphere tightened, just a little. "Of course, Martin," Clara said. Her voice was smooth. "No rush." But her eyes flicked to Leo, a silent message. The next week, Dr. Evans called. He was my general practitioner. His office said he wanted to see me for a cognitive baseline assessment. It was routine for patients my age, they said. Clara made the appointment. She offered to drive me. "I can drive myself," I said. "I know," she said, "but I'd like to come to talk to the doctor about your sleep. You've been so restless." So we went together. Dr. Evans was polite. He asked me questions. What year was it? Who was the president? He had me remember 3 words. He had me draw a clock. I did it all perfectly. I made one deliberate mistake on the clock. I put the minute hand on the 3 when he said 11:10. I corrected myself after a second. "Oh, silly me," I said. I smiled. Dr. Evans nodded. He made a note. He asked Clara about my behavior. She spoke softly, worried. "He's just not himself sometimes," she said. "Forgets conversations, gets confused about dates. He left the stove on last week, just a flicker, but it scared me." I had not left the stove on. I said nothing. I watched her. Her face was a mask of loving concern. It was convincing. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the exam room. Dr. Evans recommended a specialist, a neurologist, just to be thorough. Clara took the referral slip. She thanked him. In the car, she was quiet, then she sighed. "I'm glad we're doing this," she said. She reached over and squeezed my hand. "We'll get to the bottom of it." The bottom of it, as if I were a mystery to be solved, or a problem to be contained. I knew the trajectory now. The cognitive concerns, the trust documents, the eventual move to a smaller, easier-to-manage place, an apartment, then perhaps assisted living. My assets would fund it all. Their control would be complete. It was a slow-motion dispossession, dressed in flannel and concern. I needed a lawyer, but not just any lawyer. I needed someone outside their sphere. Someone they could not influence. I thought of Arthur, but he was too far, and he was connected to my past. They would see him as a threat immediately. I needed a stranger, a specialist. I spent days at the library, researching. I looked for attorneys who practiced in elder law, but specifically those who litigated financial exploitation cases. I avoided the big names, the ones with flashy websites. I looked for smaller firms, sole practitioners with a focus on procedure. I found one. Her name was Anya Sharma. Her office was in the city, an hour's drive away. Her website was plain. It listed her credentials. She had a background in forensic accounting before law school. That interested me. Her stated philosophy was protecting autonomy through meticulous documentation. I called from a payphone. It still worked outside the post office. A receptionist answered. I gave my P.O. Box address. I used my real name. I said I needed a consultation regarding possible financial exploitation. I asked about fees. She quoted a rate. I said I would call back to schedule. I needed money they couldn't see. My pension and Social Security went into our joint account, the account Leo watched. I had a small separate checking account from my old firm, a monthly draw from a closed case that would end in a year. It was only $300 a month. Clara thought it had ended. I had never corrected her. That money went to a different bank. I still had the card. The statements came electronically to my old email, an email I hadn't used in years. I accessed it at the library. There was about $2,000 in it. It was enough for a retainer. I scheduled the appointment with Anya Sharma for a Tuesday. Clara had an all-day museum committee meeting. I told her I was going to see Arthur for lunch. He was in town visiting his sister. It was a lie, but a plausible one. She didn't question it. Anya Sharma's office was in a modest brick building. Her room was small, neat. She was younger than I expected, perhaps 40. She had intelligent, calm eyes. She shook my hand. She gestured to a chair. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, "tell me why you're here." I did not tell her a story. I showed her a file. It was a copy of my fact journal, organized chronologically. Copies of the new will, the power of attorney documents, the deed to the Vermont land, a list of assets I knew we had, a timeline of key events. I spoke plainly. I described the language of care, the gradual exclusions, the manufactured concern about my cognition. I did not sound angry. I sounded like a client presenting a case, because that is what I was. She read in silence for a long time. She took notes on a yellow legal pad. Finally, she looked up. "This is a classic pattern," she said. Her voice was neutral, professional. "The staging of incapacity is common. It justifies the consolidation of control. The financial power of attorney is the most powerful tool. They have it already." "Can it be revoked?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You are presumed to have capacity until a court says otherwise. You can revoke it, but you must notify the agent in writing, and you must notify any third parties who have relied on it, your bank, your brokerage." "If I revoke it," I said, "they will know I am acting against them." "They will," she agreed. She steepled her fingers. "It will likely escalate their efforts. They may file for guardianship, citing the very concerns you've documented here." She pointed to my notes about Dr. Evans, the neurologist referral. "What is the alternative?" I asked. "The strategic alternative," she said, "is not to revoke it yet. It is to build an unassailable record of your capacity and to document their actions as exploitation. Then, when you act decisively, to dismantle their entire framework of control, not just one document." I understood. This was not a skirmish. It was a campaign. It required patience, more patience. "What is the first step?" I asked. "A capacity evaluation," she said, "but not with their doctor, with an independent forensic psychiatrist, one who specializes in assessing undue influence. I can give you names. It will be expensive." "I have some money," I said. "Good," she said. "The second step is to secure your separate asset. This land in Vermont, is it valuable?" "I don't think so," I said. "We should have it appraised. Quietly, if it has value, we may need to move it into an irrevocable trust they cannot touch. That takes time. The third step is continuous documentation. You're doing that, but we need to formalize it. Dated videos of you discussing complex matters, reading legal documents, managing your finances, a contemporary record of your sound mind." "And the power of attorney?" I asked. "Leave it in place for now," she said. Her gaze was steady. "It's a risk. They could do something drastic with it, but if they do, it becomes evidence of bad faith. We will monitor your accounts. I can help you set up alerts. If they move large sums, we will know immediately, and we can intervene." It felt dangerous. like leaving a loaded gun on a table. But I saw her logic. Revoking it now would start a war I wasn't fully prepared for. I needed more ammunition, more fortifications. "I want to proceed," I said. She nodded. She outlined her fees. I wrote her a check from my separate account. I felt a strange relief. I was no longer alone. I had a general and a plan. The next month was a double life. On the surface, I was Martin, a bit forgetful, a bit passive, going along with things. I even agreed to see the neurologist. Clara was pleased. The appointment was set for 6 weeks out. Beneath the surface, I was building a case. I met with a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Leland. His evaluation took 4 hours. It was exhaustive. He gave me a battery of tests. He interviewed me about my life, my career, my finances. He asked specific questions about the documents I had signed. He recorded the session with my permission. At the end, he gave me his preliminary opinion. "Mr. Caldwell, you show no signs of any cognitive impairment that would affect your financial judgment. Your recall is excellent. Your understanding of complex instruments is well above average. The mistake on the clock drawing in your GP's office, it was strategic, wasn't it?" I admitted it was. He smiled thinly. "I thought so. I will write a detailed report. It will state you have full testamentary and contractual capacity, and that you are capable of recognizing and resisting undue influence." It was a powerful document. I paid him. I gave a copy to Anya Sharma. The Vermont land was a surprise. Anya found a local appraiser. The plot was 10 acres of mixed woods. It was not valuable for timber, but it bordered a state park. A developer had been quietly buying up adjacent parcels. The appraiser estimated its value at $200,000, possibly more to the right buyer. It was my secret asset, my emergency fund. Anya helped me create an irrevocable trust. I named a corporate trustee, a bank with no connection to anyone I knew. The trust was for my benefit during my life. Upon my death, the assets would go to a list of charities. The library was first on the list. The deed was transferred into the trust. It was done by mail, through my P.O. box. Clara never knew. I began making the videos. In the library study room, using their computer's camera. I would read a complex article from The Economist * aloud. I would summarize it. I would then read a page from one of the legal documents Leo had given me. I would explain its implications in simple terms. I dated each video. I saved them to an encrypted drive. I gave a copy to Anya. I was building a wall, brick by brick, a wall of evidence, a wall of competence. All while living in a house that felt increasingly like a furnished rental. Clara was cheerful. She talked about downsizing. "A nice condo, Martin. No stairs, no yard work, we could travel." Leo brought over brochures for active senior communities. They had activities. They had meal plans. They had security. I smiled. I said they looked nice. I said we should think about it. The tension was in the mundane. The way Clara would watch me take my pills. The way Alara would call and ask to speak to her mother first. The way Leo's financial updates became more vague. "The market's tricky, Martin, but don't you worry. Clara and I have it handled." Anya set up the account alerts. My pension direct deposits were flagged. Any transfer over $500 would trigger a text to my burner phone. A phone I kept in the spare tire well with my journal. The first alert came in July. A transfer of $20,000 from our joint investment account to a new account. The account was in Clara's name only. The memo line said, "Home improvements." No improvements were happening. Anya advised patience. "It's a test," she said. "She's seeing if you're watching, or if the bank will question it under the POA. Do nothing. Document it." I documented it, the date, the amount, the memo. I felt a cold clarity. This was theft. It was small in the scheme of things, but it was the first move of substance, the first bite from the apple. I waited. Clara said nothing about home improvements. She did not mention the money. A week later, she brought up the condos again. "I've been pre-qualified for a mortgage," she said brightly, "just to see what we can afford. Leo says it's a great time to buy. We could sell this house and have plenty left over." "Pre-qualified in whose name?" I asked. I kept my tone conversational. "In my name," she said. She was stirring soup. She didn't look at me. "With your income factored in, of course, but since you're retired, it's easier with me as the primary." "I see," I said. I went to the library. I researched property law. A spouse could not be excluded from the homestead without a specific agreement. In our state, both signatures would be required to sell the house. The trust idea Leo had pushed was the workaround. Once the house was in a trust they controlled, they could sell it without my direct signature. They needed me to sign the trust papers. The pressure to sign increased. Leo framed it as urgency. "Interest rates are rising, Martin. We're missing a window." Alara framed it as love. "We just want you and Mom to be safe and comfortable, Dad. This big house is a burden." Clara framed it as inevitability. "It's just the next step, sweetheart." At a Sunday dinner, the push became a shove. We were eating dessert. Lemon cake. Leo put his fork down. "Martin, we need to get those trust documents signed. Vance has them ready. I've made an appointment for us for Thursday at 10. It was not a question. It was a statement. I took a bite of cake. I chewed slowly. I swallowed. "I'm not ready to sign," I said. My voice was calm, quiet. The silence was instant. It swallowed the room. Clara put her hand over mine. "What do you mean, Martin? We've discussed this." "We've discussed you selling the house," I said. "We haven't discussed me signing over legal title to a trust I don't control." Another silence, sharper. Alara's eyes widened. "Dad, that's not what it is. It's for your protection." "From what?" I asked. I looked at her. I kept my gaze mild. "From probate, from confusion," she said. Her cheeks flushed. "I'm not confused," I said. "I understand what a revocable living trust is. I understand that if I am a trustee, I can be removed by the other trustees if I am deemed incapacitated. I've read the draft." Leo leaned forward. His friendly advisor mask slipped, just a fraction. "Who have you been talking to, Martin? Arthur? He's filling your head with nonsense. This is standard estate planning." "I've been reading," I said, "on my own at the library." Clara's grip on my hand tightened. It was not affectionate. It was tense. "Martin, this is getting ridiculous. You're being paranoid. We are your family. We are trying to help you." The word was out. Paranoid. It was the next label. After forgetful came difficult. After difficult came paranoid. The escalation was proceeding exactly as Anya had predicted. I withdrew my hand from hers. I stood up. "I'm tired," I said. "I think I'll go lie down." I left them at the table. I went upstairs. I did not lie down. I stood by the window. I listened to the low, urgent murmur of their voices below. I could not make out words, but the tone was clear. It was crisis management. The following Tuesday, I received a registered letter. It was from Robert Vance. It stated that, pursuant to the durable power of attorney, and out of concern for my well-being, my wife Clara was scheduling a comprehensive neuropsychological evaluation. It was more intensive than the neurologist visit. It would involve a 2-day inpatient stay at a clinic. The date was set for 3 weeks from now. The letter was CC'd to Dr. Evans. It was a declaration of war. The guardianship petition was next. They would use the evaluation results, whatever they were, to prove I lacked capacity. Then they would ask a judge to make Clara my guardian. The trust would be signed for me, by her. I took the letter to Anya Sharma. "This is it," she said. She read the letter twice. "They're moving to the final phase. They want a clinical finding of impairment, even a mild one. They will use it in court." "What do I do?" I asked. "You don't go," she said. "You refuse. As a competent adult, you have the right to refuse any medical procedure. But they will use that refusal against you too. They will say it's proof of poor judgment. We need to move first. Move how? We file a petition, she said. Her eyes were focused, intent. We go to court, but not on their terms, on ours. We petition for the termination of the power of attorney, based on evidence of financial exploitation and bad faith. We submit my report, Dr. Lelland's report, your documentation. We ask the court to appoint a neutral evaluator, and we ask for a temporary restraining order freezing any further asset transfers. It was the moment, the calm, procedural response I had been preparing for. There would be no shouting, no dramatic confrontations. There would be filings, exhibits, notarized affidavits. Will we win? I asked. We have the evidence, she said. The unauthorized transfer, the pattern of isolation, the staging of incapacity, your demonstrated competence. Yes, I believe a judge will see it, but it will be ugly. It will tear your family apart. I thought about that. The family, Sunday dinners, the illusion of care. It was already torn. It had been torn the first time they decided I was a burden to be managed, rather than a person to be respected. They tore it, I said. My voice was quiet. I am just holding up the pieces to the light. Anya nodded. She understood. Then we begin. The preparation took 10 days. We assembled the filing. It was over 200 pages. It included my fact journal, bank statements showing the transfer, the appraisal for the Vermont land, now safely in a trust, Dr. Lelland's full report, Anya's analysis of the financial exploitation, affidavits from Arthur, who described my long career and sharp mind, an affidavit from the librarian, who saw me weekly and could attest to my coherent discussions of current events. We filed it on a Friday morning. The court assigned a judge, Judge Helen Ramos. Anya said she was fair, no nonsense. The law required Clara, as my agent, to be served with the petition, and to be served with the temporary restraining order. It froze all accounts held in my name or jointly. It required her to provide an accounting of all actions taken under the POA. A process server delivered the documents to our house at 5 p.m. that Friday. I was not there. I was at a quiet hotel downtown, paid for with money from my separate account. My burner phone rang at 5:20 p.m. It was Clara. Her voice was a controlled storm. Martin, what is this? What have you done? I've asked the court to review the power of attorney, I said. I was sitting in a hotel chair. The room was beige and quiet. This is insane. After all I've done for you, I am your wife. How could you humiliate me like this, with lies? The transfer of $20,000, I said. What home improvement project was that for Clara? There was a dead silence on the line, then a sharp intake of breath. That was for the condo down payment, a deposit. I was going to tell you. The memo said home improvements, I said, and the condo application is in your name only. It doesn't require a deposit from a joint account. Another silence. I could hear her thinking, recalculating. Who's poisoning you against us? Is it that Sharma woman? I looked her up. She's an ambulance chaser. She's filling your head with stories to get your money. She works for me, I said, and I pay her with my money, the money you don't control. Martin, listen to yourself. Her voice cracked, not with sadness, with fury. You are not well, this proves it. This paranoia, this betrayal of your family, we have to protect you from yourself. The court will see that. They will see the evidence, I said. My tone was flat. Goodbye, Clara. I hung up, my hand was steady. My heart was a steady drum. I felt nothing. And then a profound, empty sadness. It was done. The facade was shattered. The phone rang again, and again. I turned it off. The hearing for the temporary orders was set for the following Wednesday. Anya prepared me. They will argue you are confused, manipulated by me. They will attack Dr. Lelland as a hired gun. They will play up your symptoms. The burned stove, the forgotten conversations. Stay calm. Answer only the questions asked. Speak slowly. clearly. I wore my best suit, the one I hadn't worn in years. Anya met me at the courthouse. Clara arrived with Leo and Robert Vance. Alara was not there. Clara looked composed. She wore a simple navy dress. She looked like a concerned wife. She did not look at me. We were called into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected. Judge Ramos was on the bench. She had a stack of papers in front of her, our filing. The hearing was procedural, but consequential. Vance argued first. He was smooth. He spoke of a loving family, a wife stepping up to manage complex affairs for a husband showing early signs of cognitive decline. He called the petition a tragic misunderstanding. He said I was being unduly influenced by a predatory lawyer. He pointed to the scheduled neuropsychological evaluation as proof of the family's responsible concern. "Your Honor, my client simply wants what's best for her husband," Vance said. "This legal action is the real exploitation. It is causing immense stress and fracturing a family." Then it was Anya's turn. She did not raise her voice. She spoke to the judge as to a colleague. "Your Honor, this is not a matter of medical opinion. It is a matter of fact. Mrs. Caldwell, using a power of attorney obtained under questionable circumstances, transferred $20,000 of marital assets to a private account for her sole benefit. She is attempting to qualify for a mortgage in her name alone to purchase a separate residence. Meanwhile, she and her daughter and son-in-law have engaged in a systematic campaign to portray a competent man as incapable, all to gain control of his substantial assets. We have provided a forensic psychiatric evaluation confirming Mr. Caldwell's capacity. We have documentation of this campaign. We ask that the power of attorney be suspended pending a full hearing, and that the accounts be frozen to prevent further dissipation." Judge Ramos had a few questions. She asked Vance about the $20,000 transfer. He fumbled. He said it was a misunderstanding, a joint decision that was poorly documented. She asked if Mrs. Caldwell had provided the court with the accounting required under the POA statute. Vance admitted they had not yet, due to the suddenness of the petition. She asked me a question directly. "Mr. Caldwell, do you understand why you are here today?" I looked at the judge. "Yes, Your Honor. I am here to ask the court to prevent my wife from using a legal document I signed, believing it was for emergencies, to take my money and my home." My voice was clear. It did not waver. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she looked at Clara. "Mrs. Caldwell, did you discuss the $20,000 transfer with your husband before making it?" Clara stood. "Your Honor, he forgets things. I may have mentioned it. He often agrees to things and then forgets." "That is not an answer to my question," Judge Ramos said. Her tone was cool. "Did you discuss this specific transfer with him, yes or no?" Clara hesitated. "No, Your Honor, but it was for our future." Judge Ramos made some notes. She then ruled. "I am granting the petitioner's request for a temporary restraining order. All accounts listed in the petition are frozen, pending further order. The durable power of attorney is hereby suspended. I am appointing a neutral court evaluator, Dr. Ian Moore, to conduct an assessment of Mr. Caldwell's capacity and the situation. He will report to the court in 30 days. Until that report is filed, no further financial transactions are permitted. No medical evaluations may be scheduled without Mr. Caldwell's consent and the evaluator's knowledge. This case is set for a full hearing in 60 days. It was a complete victory on the temporary measures. Clara's control was legally frozen. The court was now watching. As we walked out, Clara finally looked at me. Her eyes were not soft with concern anymore. They were hard and afraid. "You have no idea what you've done," she whispered. "I think I do," I said. I moved out of the house that weekend. With the court order in hand, I could access half of the frozen joint funds for living expenses. I rented a small, furnished apartment. It had a view of some trees. It was quiet. The neutral evaluator, Dr. Moore, came to see me there. He was an older man, kind eyes. He spent 3 hours with me. He reviewed all the evidence. He asked insightful questions. He also met with Clara separately. The 60 days until the full hearing were a strange limbo. I lived simply. I read. I walked. I reconnected with Arthur. We had long lunches. He never said, "I told you so." He just listened. Elara called me once. She was crying. "Dad, how could you do this to Mom? To us. We love you. We were scared for you." "Were you scared for me when you had me sign papers I didn't read?" I asked. My voice was gentle. "Or when you took my telescope? Or when you told the doctor I left the stove on?" The crying stopped. There was a hollow silence. "You're twisting everything," she said, her voice small. "Am I?" I asked. I didn't wait for an answer. "Goodbye, Elara." I hung up. I felt a pang. But it was for the daughter I thought I had, not for the one on the phone. Dr. Moore's report was filed with the court. Anya got a copy. She read it to me over the phone. "It's very good," she said. "He concludes you have full capacity. He finds the evidence of financial exploitation credible and concerning. He notes the pattern of subtle gaslighting by your family. He recommends the power of attorney be permanently revoked. He recommends the court consider whether a civil action for restitution of the $20,000 is warranted." The other side saw the report. Their case collapsed. Robert Vance filed a motion to withdraw as their counsel. He gave no reason, but we knew. No ethical lawyer wants to be on the wrong side of a forensic report like that. On the eve of the full hearing, Anya received a call from a new lawyer. Representing Clara, he proposed a settlement. The terms were simple. Clara would agree to the permanent revocation of the power of attorney. She would return the $20,000 plus interest to the joint account. She would sign a quitclaim deed, giving up any interest in the Vermont Land Trust. In exchange, I would agree to an uncontested divorce with a simplified division of the remaining marital assets. We would split the equity in the house 50-50. The investment accounts would be divided 50-50. She would keep her car. I would keep my separate account and the Vermont Trust. We would each pay our own legal fees, and we would agree to a mutual non-disparagement clause. It was a complete surrender. They wanted out. They wanted to avoid a public hearing where all the evidence would be laid bare. They wanted to avoid a possible referral for criminal elder exploitation. They wanted to salvage whatever they could and walk away. Anya advised me to take it. "A trial is unpredictable," she said. "Even with our evidence, this gives you a clean break. It returns your stolen funds. It protects your separate asset. It finalizes their exit from your life with legal force." I thought about it. A trial would be another 6 months of stress, of reliving it. This was a surgical end. Quiet, procedural. "I accept," I said. The final divorce decree was signed 2 months later. The house was sold. I took my half of the proceeds. Clara moved into a condo, not the one she tried to buy with the $20,000, a smaller one. I bought a small, modern house near the library. It had a garden. I could tend to it myself. I got a new car, a sensible sedan. The aftermath was long. It was not filled with drama. It was filled with quiet. The quiet of my own space. The quiet of my own decisions. I volunteered at the library again. I joined a book club. I made tentative new friends. I thought about Clara and Elara and Leo often. Not with rage, with a kind of forensic sadness. I dissected how it happened, not in one evil plot, but in 1,000 small concessions. 1,000 assumptions that my time was over and theirs was just beginning, that my assets were already theirs, waiting for me to get out of the way. The justice was in the facts, the court order, the returned money, the divorce decree, the silence where their voices used to direct my life. It was not sweet, it was sobering. A year after the divorce was final, I was in my garden. It was autumn. The leaves were turning. My phone buzzed, an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line was Dad. It was from Elara. It was brief. Dad**. I don't expect a reply. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for my part in it. I thought we were helping. I see now we were taking. Leo and I are separating. It's ugly. He was controlling things I didn't even see. Maybe I didn't want to see. I understand if you never want to speak to me again. But I am sorry. Ilara. I read it 3 times. I felt the ghost of an old ache, the ache from my little girl. But the woman who wrote this was not her. She was a stranger who shared her name. I did not reply. I deleted the email. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. They can only be marked on a map as a danger past. I am content now. My life is my own. It is simple. It is calm. The days are slow and clear. I answer to no one's schedule but my own. I make my own coffee. I forget nothing that matters. Sometimes, in the deep quiet of the evening, I sit in my chair. I look out at the garden. I think about the telescope. I think about the look in Clara's eyes when the judge ruled against her. I think about the weight of all that paper, the petitions, the reports, the decree, that ultimately weighed more than 20 years of shared life. I got my justice. It was quiet. It was dignified. It left me alone. And I am left with one final, quiet question that floats in the calm air of my safe, solitary house, a question with no answer, only the space it occupies. When does care become a cage? And when does the person inside stop trying to rattle the bars and simply start looking for the key? The key, it turned out, was not a single object. It was a collection of small, hard facts. They were heavier than I expected. Carrying them changed my posture. I stood straighter. I moved with less apology. Winter settled over my new house. The garden slept under a blanket of mulch. Inside, the heat worked with a steady hum. I had chosen the system myself. I read the manuals. I understood the warranty. This knowledge felt like a kind of warmth. I began to sort through the final boxes from the old house. Clara had delivered them through a mover. There was no note, just cardboard cubes of a shared history, photographs, old tax returns, my college textbooks, a ceramic ashtray Ben made in 2nd grade. It was lopsided. It said Gampa in wobbly glaze. I held the ashtray. I did not smoke, but I kept it. I put it on a shelf in my study. It was a fact, too, a fact of a love that was once simple. The financial separation was absolute. The joint accounts were closed. My half of the proceeds from the house sale sat in a new account. At a new bank, I met with the manager, a young woman named Sarah. She explained CDs and money market rates. I asked questions. She answered clearly. There was no patting my hand, no talking over me. It was a transaction between 2 competent adults. I invested a portion conservatively. I used an online service. No Leo. No trusted family advisor, just algorithms and disclosures. I read every line. It was tedious. It was peaceful. Spring came. The garden woke. I planted tomatoes, roses, a small hydrangea. My hands in the dirt felt like a reclamation. I was building something that could not be donated or sold without my consent. Arthur visited in May. He flew in for a long weekend. We sat on my back patio. We drank iced tea. He told me about Arizona, the brutal heat, the stunning sunsets. I told him about the book club. We were reading a detective novel. The group argued about the clues. "You look good, Martin," he said. He wasn't looking at my clothes. He was looking at my eyes. "I feel clear," I said. "Clarity can be lonely," he offered. "It can," I agreed, "but confusion in company is lonelier." He nodded. He understood. He had seen the beginning of the confusion, the manufactured kind. I did not hear from Clara again. The divorce decree was our last point of contact. Ilara did not write a second time. The silence from that quarter was complete. It was the silence after a door has been firmly shut, not slammed, just closed, the latch clicking into place. In the summer, I received a formal letter from the county. It was about the Vermont Land Trust. The corporate trustee provided an annual statement. The land was still there. The developer had made an offer. The trustee, following the trust's directives, had declined. The land was to be preserved. The value was stable. I thought about walking those 10 acres. I had never seen them. My father bought them as a speculation. He never bothered to visit. It was just a line on a financial statement. Now it was a sanctuary, a patch of woods that belonged to no one's plans. It felt like a metaphor, but I avoided metaphors. They cloud the facts. The fact was, I owned something they did not get. It was a small, satisfying fact. My routine solidified. Mornings were for reading the paper, real paper. I had it delivered. Afternoons were for the library or the garden. Evenings were for reading or a film. I saw other men my age there, at the hardware store, in the library stacks. We nodded. Sometimes we spoke about the weather, or the difficulty of finding good light bulbs these days. It was surface talk. It was enough. I thought I might be lonely, but I was not. The loneliness I had felt in my marriage, in that house of managed decline, had been profound. It was the loneliness of being unseen, of being narrated instead of heard. This new solitude was different. It had space in it. In that space, I could hear my own thoughts. Anya Sharma checked in every few months. A brief email. "Hope you are well. The file remains closed here," I always replied. "All is quiet, thank you." Our professional relationship had ended. A cordial distance remained. She had been my general. The war was over. We had no reason to speak. Then, in October, a different kind of letter arrived. It was from Dr. Evans's office, my former GP. It was a reminder for my annual physical. I had not gone last year. The chaos had intervened. I stared at the notice. Going back to that office felt like walking onto a stage where a story about my incapacity had been performed. But I needed a doctor. I was healthy. I wanted to stay that way. I called. I made an appointment. I did not mention the past. The day of the appointment, I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. It was not illness. It was memory. I parked in the same lot. I walked into the same waiting room. The receptionist was new. That helped. When I was called back, it was by a nurse I didn't recognize. She took my vitals, blood pressure, normal, weight, stable. She asked about medications. I listed them. I brought my own pill box. I showed it to her. It was organized by the week. She nodded, made a note. Dr. Evans came in. He looked older, tired. He had my file open on a tablet. He smiled. It was professional. "Martin, good to see you. It's been a while." "It has," I said. He went through the routine. Listen to heart and lungs, check reflexes, look in ears and throat, all standard, all fine. Then he sat on his stool. He scrolled through the tablet. His smile faded. He looked up. "I see there were some legal matters after your last visit." "Yes," I said. "I received some documentation from a court evaluator, a Dr. Moore." I said nothing. I waited. "He was quite thorough," Dr. Evans said. He put the tablet down. He looked at his hands, then at me. "His findings were very different from the picture I was given." "I imagine they were," I said. My voice was neutral. He took a breath. "Mr. Caldwell, Martin, I want to apologize. I believe I may have been unduly influenced by the concerns your wife expressed. The cognitive test here, it's a screen. It's not definitive, but the context in which I interpreted it, it was skewed." This was unexpected. A doctor admitting a flaw, it was a rare thing. I felt no triumph, only a slight, sad validation. "You were given misleading information," I said. It was not an accusation. It was a fact. "I was," he agreed. He looked genuinely distressed. "It led me to make a referral that was not medically warranted. Based on what Dr. Moore found, your cognitive function is excellent. I am sorry for my part in causing you distress." I accepted his apology. I did not absolve him, but I accepted it. "Thank you for telling me," I said. The rest of the physical was routine. As I left, he said, "I'll see you next year for a routine physical. No extra tests." "Good," I said. Walking out to my car, the tightness in my chest was gone. The air felt cooler, cleaner. It was another small restitution, not legal, but human. The seasons turned again. Another winter, another spring. My life was a slow, gentle river. It had no rapids, no dramatic falls, it just flowed. Then, on a rainy Tuesday in June, my doorbell rang. It was mid-afternoon. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. It was Ben, my grandson. He was 15 now, tall, lanky. His hair was too long, he held a backpack. He looked nervous. I opened the door. Ben. Hi, Grandpa. He shifted his weight. Can I come in just for a minute? I stepped back. Of course. He came into the entryway. He dripped on the tile. I got him a towel. He wiped his face. He looked around. Nice place. Thank you. What brings you here? I asked. I led him to the kitchen. Tea, soda. Soda, thanks. He sat at my small table. I got him a can of ginger ale. I sat across from him. He took a long drink. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom doesn't know I'm here, he said finally. I assumed not. She and Dad, Leo, they're splitting up. It's bad. They fight about money all the time. He picked at the label on the can. Leo's, he's not a good guy. Mom finally sees it, I think. She's sad all the time. I listened. I said nothing. I heard things, Ben said. His voice was low. When you and Grandma, when all that happened, they said you were sick, that you didn't know what you were doing. But I never believed it. Why not? I asked. He looked up. For the first time, his eyes met mine. They were clear, intelligent. Because you remembered my birthday. Every year, you sent me a card with a specific fact about space or history. One year you wrote about the Voyager probes. Another year about the siege of Constantinople. Mom and Leo never remembered stuff like that. They gave me gift cards. A lump formed in my throat. I swallowed it. I'm glad you remembered the cards. I kept them, he said. He looked down again. Anyway, I'm applying to colleges next year. I want to study astrophysics, like for real, not just a hobby. He took a deep breath. I was wondering if it's okay if maybe we could have coffee sometime, or something. I don't want to be like them. Them, he had drawn a line. On one side, his mother and Leo. On the other, me. It was a brutal geography for a boy, but he was mapping it himself. I would like that, Ben, I said. My voice was thick. Very much. He nodded, relieved. Okay, cool. He finished his soda. He stood up. I should go, my bus. I walked him to the door. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. How did you find me? I asked. Google, he said, a faint smile. Property records are public. He sounded like a lawyer or a detective. I smiled back. So they are. He hesitated on the step. Grandpa, I'm sorry for what they did. You have nothing to be sorry for, I said. You were a kid. Still, he said. He gave a quick, awkward wave. Then he walked down the path to the street. I watched him go. The rain misted my glasses. I went inside. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The ghost of the ginger ale sat across from me. That meeting changed something. It did not reopen old wounds. It suggested a possible future. A single, thin thread connecting my history to what comes next. It was fragile, but it was real. Ben and I began to meet monthly. At a diner halfway between my house and his mother's apartment. We talked about physics, about his classes, about my books. We did not talk about Clara, or Alara, or Leo. We talked about neutrinos and nonfiction. It was a safe, neutral space. It was nourishing. One Saturday, he showed up at my house with a large, flat box. I got a job, he said, at the planetarium. I used my first paycheck for this. It was a telescope, not a toy, a serious beginner-intermediate model. I thought maybe we could look at Jupiter sometime, he said, his face hopeful. If you want. We set it up in my backyard that night. The sky was clear. We found Jupiter, a bright, steady point. Through the eyepiece, it was a pale disk. Two of its moons were visible, tiny pinpricks of light beside it. "Wow," Ben whispered. "Wow," I agreed. We took turns looking. We didn't say much else. The silent, shared observation was enough. It was a kind of language. After he left, I packed the telescope carefully in its case. I did not put it in the attic. I put it in my study closet, where I could see it. The years continued their quiet march. My life was small. It was mine. I traveled a little. I went to Scotland. I had always wanted to see the Highlands. I went alone. I liked the solitude of the hills. I joined a local historical society. I gave a talk once about the legal history of property deeds in the 19th century. A dozen people came. They asked good questions. I heard snippets about Clara, from Arthur, who heard from someone else. She had moved again to a warmer state. She was living off her share of the money. It was not a fortune. She would have to be careful. Alara had divorced Leo. The split was acrimonious. He fought her over custody of Ben. He lost. Ben chose to live mostly with his mother, but spent every other weekend with me. It was our arrangement, unofficial, but solid. Leo, I heard, had been investigated by the Financial Regulatory Authority. A complaint from another client. He settled. He kept his license, but his reputation was tarnished. He moved to a different firm, a lesser one. I felt no schadenfreude, only a distant acknowledgement that patterns repeat. A man who exploits one vulnerable person will likely try it again. Ben graduated high school. He got into a good university for astrophysics. I attended the graduation. I sat in the back. Alara was there. She saw me. She gave a small, tight nod. I returned it. That was all. Ben came to find me after. He hugged me. "Thanks, Grandpa," he said, for what he didn't specify, for the cards, for the coffee, for looking at Jupiter, for being a fixed point. "You did the work," I said. I gave him an envelope. Inside was a check, a generous one, from the Vermont Land Trust Income. It was for his education. "No strings," I said. "Just use it for books or a better telescope." He understood. It was clean money. Money with no history of manipulation. He thanked me. His eyes were bright. Now I am 78. The quiet is deeper. It is a companion, not an absence. My health is still good. My mind is sharp. I write letters to the editor sometimes, about local issues. They are published occasionally. I sorted through the last of the old boxes recently. At the bottom of one, I found a wedding photo. Clara and I young, smiling, unlined by strategy or disappointment. I looked at it for a long time. I did not feel regret. I felt a historical curiosity. Who were those people? What did they believe was ahead of them? I did not keep the photo. I put it in the recycling bin. It was not a rejection of the past. It was an acknowledgement that it was past. A fact that could not be altered, only filed away. The justice I received was procedural. It was documented. It is a matter of court record. Anyone could look it up. They would see a case number, a list of exhibits, a final order. They would not see the quiet dinners that became silent battlegrounds. They would not hear the gentle, corrosive language of care. They would not feel the slow, chilling realization that the people who are supposed to love you are measuring you for a smaller life. But I feel it, and then I feel the counterweight, the weight of the judge's gavel, the weight of the returned check, the weight of the deed to my little house, the weight of Ben's telescope in its case. It is enough. It is more than enough. I sit in my garden as evening falls. The roses are blooming. Their scent is heavy in the humid air. I can hear the distant sound of a lawnmower, a dog barking, the ordinary symphony of a life uninterrupted. I think of Clara. I hope she has found some peace. I think of Alara. I hope she has learned to see more clearly. I hold no active malice. They are people who made choices. The consequences of those choices are their own to live with. My life now is a series of small, true things. The taste of my own coffee, brewed exactly how I like it. The weight of a book in my hands. The satisfaction of a weed pulled cleanly from the root. The predictable orbit of Jupiter, seen through a lens with my grandson. It is a good life. It is an honest one. The final question is not about them. It is about me. It lingers in the space between the day's last light and the first star. When you have spent years being told you are fatting, and you decide, quietly, to turn up the light instead, what do you see in the new brightness that you were never meant to witness?